In 1969, the world stood still, eyes glued to television sets, hearts pounding, breaths held. A man in a bulky white suit descended a metallic ladder and uttered the immortal words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Neil Armstrong had set foot on the moon. Or had he? Welcome to Echoplexion. What if the moon landing was a lie? To some, it wasn't a leap for mankind. It was a leap of imagination, staged on a sound stage, lit by spotlights, sold to a public desperate for victory during the Cold War. And once you start looking, the so-called evidence seems to pile up. They say the flag flutters, but there's no air on the moon. They say the shadows fall in different directions, as if lit by studio lights, not the sun. They point out that there are no stars in the photos. A black sky, completely empty. And then there's the curious case of Buzz Aldrin. When asked to swear on the Bible that he walked on the moon, he refused. Why? These details, these anomalies, have fueled one of the most enduring conspiracy theories of our time. The theorists claim NASA faked it all. Why? Because in the 1960s, America was losing the space race. The Soviets were ahead. They had launched the first satellite, the first man in orbit, the first spacewalk. The United States needed a win, and fast. So, the theory goes, the government hired filmmakers, built sets, and directed the most convincing lie ever told. Some even say Stanley Kubrick was involved, fresh off the visual brilliance of 2001, A Space Odyssey. It wasn't just a hoax. It was a masterclass in deception. But it doesn't stop there. Others believe the moon landing wasn't just fake to beat the Soviets, but to control public perception, to see what people would believe, to push the limits of propaganda, to test obedience. Because if they could convince the world we landed on the moon, what else could they make us believe? It's a fascinating idea, seductive, even, but it falls apart under scrutiny. Let's start with that flag. It's not waving. It's moving from the force of being planted. There's a horizontal rod holding it out. In a vacuum, with no air resistance, things move differently. That wobble, completely expected. The shadows, not from multiple light sources, just the uneven lunar surface and the way sunlight behaves without atmosphere. The missing stars, basic photography. The cameras were set for the brightness of the moon's surface. The stars were too faint to show up. And Buzz Aldrin refusing to swear? That clip gets taken out of context. He didn't refuse because he was hiding something. He was furious at being harassed by conspiracy theorists. Oh, evidence-based breakdown. Confident, factual tone. Here's the real kicker. Over 400,000 people worked on the Apollo missions. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and astronauts. For the moon landing to be faked, all of them would have had to keep the secret for over 50 years. Not one credible leak, not one shred of hard evidence, not one undeniable confession. And guess what? The Soviet Union, America's greatest rival at the time, tracked Apollo missions. If it was a hoax, they would have exposed it in a heartbeat. Since then, we've sent satellites, landers, and rovers. They've captured images of the Apollo landing sites, including the flags, the landers, and the tracks left in the lunar dust. We went. We really went. The moon landing hoax theory is compelling because it feeds our desire to question, to challenge the story, to feel like we see through the illusion. But sometimes, the truth isn't hiding. Sometimes, it's shining bright, 240,000 miles away, on a cold, dusty world where footprints still rest undisturbed. On July 20th, 1969, humanity didn't fake a landing. We launched it, we flew it, we lived it, and we made history, not with lies, but with courage, brilliance, and an unshakable belief in what's possible. Not a hoax, but the greatest journey ever taken. This is Echoplexion, and sometimes the real truth is even more extraordinary than the conspiracy.